This is Jason J. Lewis, the voice of Superman on Justice League Action, and you're listening to the Krypton Report.
Up in the sky, look!
It's a bird!
It's a plane! It's
the Krypton Report.
James, are you there?
I am here.
I can't hear you. Are you coming in? It's like I'm on another Earth. Welcome to the Krypton Report. I'm your host, Tyler, otherwise known as The Flash. And with me is Solomon, otherwise known as Superboy. And then on that distant star to the distance, is that you, James, the Green Arrow?
Yes, I am here.
We are back and we are lame and it is late. We're going to talk today about Elseworlds, the 3-night crossover. We're talking about Superman. That's right, Solomon. I'm Tyler, your host, like I said, and with me is James and Solomon. And we're going to talk about the CW's crossover event for this year, Elseworlds. We're going to take a quick step back real quick and say a couple things. First, I've been sick for like 2 solid weeks. And I'm still sick, trying to get over this. But we just wanted to talk so bad. The other thing is, so I apologize for that. James and I are going to catch up just because I didn't want to record when I was coughing really bad and just really congested, and you couldn't even hear my voice. The other thing that we're going to throw out real quick is that I just kind of wanted to take a look back at, the CW, like the crossover event. The first year was in Arrow Season 3 and Flash Season 1, and all it was it was Flash versus Arrow, where Green Arrow was on Flash in a contained story. And then the next one was an episode of Arrow with the Flash on there in a contained story. And then later in the season, of course, Oliver later showed up to help Barry stop Eobard. So, that wasn't a big crossover, but yeah, he was there.
Which was a really exciting thing at the time, though. Characters from 2 different ongoing shows, coming together in their own respective shows.
Exactly. It was exciting. It was exciting, the episode The Scientist, where Barry first appeared and he got turned into the Flash, which that episode went a lot farther into the Flash than I thought it was going to be. And then they kind of retconned it in the series, but it was pretty crazy. I was so excited when that episode ended. So they've done that. And then the second year is when they did the backdoor pilot for Legends, where it was 2 episodes, but they were part 1 was on one show and part 2 was on the other. I think Superboy is fighting Mongol. You fighting Mongol, Superboy? You all right? Or you fighting Doomsday? Who are you fighting over there? Doomsday? All right, keep fighting. A good fight.
Those are some highly destructive battles.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if your house is going to stand that.
Oh, no. He always takes it on. He's a hero. He moves it too far away, so he knows what he's doing. He's like Superboy, instead of Superboy Prime, he's like Superboy Optimus Prime. It's just hardcore. But, the second year was when they had the Hawks. Vandal Savage introduced the backdoor pilot kind of for Legends. Third year is when we got Invasion, which was pretty cool. But, it wasn't really a 4-part crossover because the Supergirl part of the crossover really had no implication on the series. What happened in the only episode was re-shown in The Flash, so it didn't even stand out on its own.
Right. Yeah. The only part of it that was there was the breaches. The breaches popping up throughout the episode a couple of times.
And then, of course, last year was Crisis on Earth X, which was a 4-part crossover, which worked really well as the crossover because during the invasion, we got the 100th episode of Arrow, and you could tell it was an Arrow episode that took place during the invasion
Yeah,
crossover. And this year, the Flash's
they've all
episode was moved up. Like they started the series early so that the 100th episode hit as the mid-season before this event. So that was nice.
Right. The invasion crossover was unique. They've all been unique to themselves, special for one reason or another, being the first, introducing the legends, expanding on, more heroes involved. But then Invasion was unique because each episode was uniquely its own. Supergirl, Flash, Arrow, Legends, they were each its own, and they held so much of specific things that were unique to each show, and that was in each episode.
Yes.
So, I mean, it did a good job of tying it all together and them actually being their own episode for each show. And sadly for Arrow, kind of did a disservice to Arrow and a disservice to the Invasion crossover because it was Arrow's 100th.
Yep.
But it had to fit into the Invasion crossover, and then the Invasion crossover kind of got undersold during that episode because it had to be overshadowed by it being the Arrow 100th.
Yep.
So, I mean, it was good. I was happy the way they did the Flash right this year, getting episode 100 in before the crossover.
And then, last year with Crisis on Earth X was great because it really didn't feel... You really didn't feel the individual show episodes. It felt more like just one large story broken up into 4 chapters. There's parts where I feel like in each of these crossovers, you kind of get that feeling. And with Elseworlds, you do. If you just sat down and watched Elseworlds, you could tell which chapter is the Flash, which is the Arrow, and which is Supergirl. Even though it's like a cohesive story, just by the supporting characters.
Well, the supporting characters in the opening credits.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's still specifically Flash, Arrow, and Supergirl.
If you cut out the credits and just watch the segments of the story, I mean, but okay. So we're not going to go like super in detail because there's a lot that happened, but we're going to try to hit the high points and just kind of discuss our overall feeling for Elseworld.
You mean we're not going to do a 2-parter like Holy Batcast and DC TV Squadcast?
No, because we don't have someone else to partner with because everybody else is like busy.
Right.
But just as an overall, James, like just a quick like spoiler-free kind of thought of this.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of. I thought it was really good in a lot of ways. Each episode was very good. The character moments. This crossover was very character driven, and I enjoyed that a whole lot. There was a lot of development, a lot of growth for these characters that we've actually have known for 4, 5, and 7 years now. And so to actually give them something, a story to grow from, was very good. They, the introduction, the one thing the one thing that I was slightly disappointed with, and I wasn't disappointed with anything with her being there. Anything that she did was the way that they sold the crossover a lot with Batwoman.
Yeah.
And then as we see and as we get into it, she's not in there a whole lot, and only in part 2. So
see, I agree with everything you said, because I feel like we got some really good character development for Oliver, and I'll bring that back up later of what I mean by that. I feel like we got growth from the characters and just a really good unity, and I'm going to be a little nitpicky. And what I'm going to say is, I feel like a lot of the subject matter from the Supergirl side should have been its own episode. Or it should have been done a little differently, because, this picks up right after where Supergirl left off. And wait, you know what? We're jumping into spoilers. Here we go. Ready? Spoilers.
Over the wall.
Over the wall. But, it picks up right where Supergirl just left off, where she's kicked out of the DEO. And she's contemplating, being Supergirl without the DEO. So she's talking to Clark, which makes sense. And that's a perfectly good way of bringing Lois in. Having Lois and Clark at the farm and Kara's there, okay? But then, in the middle of that is when the Elseworlds happens. And, of course, it's not affecting Earth 38. It's just on Earth 1 right now. So, in a way, I feel like... I don't know, I don't want to say, it was wasted. But I feel like it almost would have been cooler to have Lois introduced. The whole Lois and Superman story, had just been its own episode. It was cool having him in the crossover, but in some ways, Superman himself didn't really play a large role, as much as the influence of how I cannot remember how to pronounce his name correctly. Deegan. I wanted to say
John.
Deegan.
Yeah, Deegan.
I wanted to say Geegan for some reason, but it's Deegan. Ugh.
Yeah.
Other than being inspired.
E-E-G.
So instead, and using the Book of Destiny to make himself, basically bad Superman.
Yeah, which I mean, in its own right, is actually pretty interesting, because he wouldn't have done that at all. He wouldn't have even had that idea, because according to the Book of Destiny, they don't even really exist on that world.
And that goes to my theory.
It's not.
My theory is, on Earth 1, Krypton never exploded. So Kara and Kal are on Krypton on Earth 1. So Krypton 1. If it's a multiverse, it's a whole universe, not just one planet. So Krypton of Earth 1 and never exploded. That's why there's no Kara and there's no Kal. Because every other Earth we've been to, we find the same people. Okay? Maybe a little change here and there, but there's not been another Kara other than Earth X. There was a Kara. But it still doesn't, it doesn't explain why there's no Barry Allen on Earth 38 or Cisco, as Barry said when he appeared on Kara's Earth that time. But I haven't figured that one out yet. But in my headcanon right now, Krypton still exists in Earth 1 world.
Well, I mean, if you do consider the multiverse, some worlds are very closely similar, whereas others are just completely different, completely off the wall. Maybe even humanity never even evolved on one or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to not have the same characters or the same beings from one Earth to the next. I mean, sure, they're going to be on a lot of them, but they're not going to be on every single one.
Exactly. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, so something like I wanted to bring up was in the Crisis on Earth X, there was a big deal because they kept talking about being 52 Earths, 52 Earths. And it was like almost like a what moment when Harry mentioned that there's a 53rd Earth X. Okay? So, wow. Oh, big reveal, right? There's 53 Earths. Well, in this, we start off on Earth 90, which is basically DC TV Earth. Because we see Smallville's Green Arrow's costume, and we get John Wesley's ship, Flash, which can work in Smallville because he's older. Barry was only mentioned in one of Bart's fake cards, and he is Bart Allen in Smallville, and we never hear the term Flash. So in that universe, Barry could be there and be older, so that works. Plus,
yeah,
John Wesley's ship plays Henry Allen and Jay Garrick, which we find out Jay Garrick of Earth 3 is related to Barry because he talks about his mother's maiden name being Garrick and stuff. So in a lot of shows and stuff, you use the same actor who plays the father to be the son older or whatever. So theoretically, Grant Gustin could grow up to be old John Wesley Shipp. So it could still be the same Barry. You know what I'm saying? Just older Barry on Earth 90.
Right.
Oh, thank you, buddy. So I don't have a problem with that.
Right.
So
yeah, oh, go ahead.
No, I'm saying it's my biggest two beefs with the crossover is one, I feel like the whole Superman and Lois thing, especially Lois, was kind of wasted. Like, it was cool to see her. I feel like there was a lot of stuff that was put in there for Lois and Clark that was just kind of like, oh, that's really cool. Like, I'm really glad I saw it. But I almost just wish it was on an episode of Supergirl and not the episode of Supergirl that's the Elseworlds. Because I feel like you could have explored more of some of the other characters in this Elseworlds situation. I mean, we get the Amazo robot and Brainiac goes to fight it and they fly off in the air. And then you almost forget about it. Then all of a sudden Amazo drops from the sky. And Brainiac's just like, Brainiac 5's just like dusting his hands off.
Which shows Brainiac is actually pretty BA when it comes to it.
I mean,
he took down Amazo.
He is. And, so I feel like Lois and Clark were just put in there like, yeah, it was awesome to see him. And I don't know what it was. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, and I really need to rewatch it. I really love Tyler Hoechlin in the episodes he did on Supergirl, but he just felt kind of off in these episodes. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. He didn't feel like the same characterization. I don't know. Could just be me.
Well, with the world building that they have kind of been doing. With Supergirl, bringing in Lex Luthor, casting Lois Lane, not casting a random as Lois Lane. She's known in television, and it could be setting up something for. Just hoping, could be setting up a possibility for a Superman thing down the line. Which would actually be quite interesting. Now, this is just, future and just tiny bit off topic, but not really, because we find out in this episode, in the crossover, that Lois Lane is pregnant.
Yes. Why? We find out that Superman was off-world on Argo, learning about his culture and his history. And Lois was with him, and while there, like he says, they had some fun. Because he didn't have his powers. And she got pregnant, and now they're going to Argo to have the baby, which is great writing because bring in Jonathan Kent. let's explore that on television.
And that's my point. Which one thing I like, one, they're going back to Argo to have the baby, because I thought it was very interesting when they brought up, probably the safest place for her to be when the baby starts kicking.
Yes,
it's a very good idea. Something I'm sure people have thought of over the years. How did she carry a super child inside of her?
Well, I mean, in Convergence, they were on the Earth where Superman had no powers because they were like bottled by Brainiac. So that's how the whole she got pregnant, was able to have the baby. Clark didn't have any powers until Brainiac opened all the different cities and Earths that he had for the battle.
Okay. So yeah, coming up through the New 52, I haven't gotten to Convergence yet, so that is new to me.
I'll tell you, just read Convergence, Superman 1 and 2, which is the birth of Jonathan Kent. Then read, I think the last issue of Convergence, basically where he sends Lois and Clark, but I think they recap it in Lois and Clark, the short run series.
Yeah, the Road to Rebirth, as they call it. Lois and Clark, the Road to Rebirth.
Yeah, read that, dude. It was I waited till too late to read that, and I bought them all in one day and read them all. It was so good. I should have just bought it from the beginning.
I heard Lois and Clark was very good, very good read there at the end of the New 52.
That's what made me so excited for Rebirth, because, like I've said before, is having a son and now having my daughter and having Superman being a parent in the comics, it just made me connect with that character even more.
Right. So what would be extremely interesting is if they move forward with this, and if it is an idea that is being bounced around, that if they do end up doing a Superman show, this could be a Superman show that we've never seen.
Exactly.
Like this season is going to be a Lex Luthor that we've never seen. This is going to be the Lex Luthor that was the billionaire who has done, countless atrocities and is imprisoned for crimes against humanity, things like that. A Lex Luthor who has been through the ringer with Superman. And so now if they end up doing a Superman show, and this is all still just hope and possible speculation, but if they end up doing a Superman show, this would be a Superman who has been Superman for how long's Kara been on Earth now? So and he was Superman when she arrived.
Yeah.
So umpteen years that he's been Superman. This is a very experienced Superman, and possibly having Jonathan Kent, it would be an entire new dynamic that we've only seen recently in the comic books.
Exactly.
That we could finally see on television. That would be amazing.
We're
something completely new.
We're getting to jump ahead. Like, we're bypassing the origin. We're bypassing Lois and Clark falling in love. We're getting to see the relationship. And that's something like that, people talk about not wanting to see origin stuff anymore, and that's what they've done with the Superman. And I think it'd be kind of neat, even if CW invested in doing their first ever just made-for-TV movie, and just doing a Superman movie would be kind of neat. Or I say if they did a 10-episode series, and put it on DC Universe, kind of as if you enjoy the CW Superman, check him out on DC Universe, as a way of just helping sell DC Universe. Right. Like a joint production between the two or something, just to build up some more original content over there. Or, it doesn't have to be a 20-some episode series. 10 episode short style, concise would be great. But with all that, I liked Lois. The actress I'm not 100% sold on, but her characterization I really liked. And that's partially because I feel like she wasn't given a lot to do. But everything I saw her and I liked. So I don't have anything bad to say with her, other than I wish it had been just a really good one episode of Supergirl with her.
Yeah. They had a good dynamic. I liked her. I enjoyed her. She was really spunky.
Yes.
I did enjoy that. I like the dynamic that the three of them had. Clark behind Lois's back going, no, don't,
Yes.
don't feed what she has to say. 'Cause she already, you can already tell just by the interactions between the three. She is really that Lois Lane who speaks her mind, who has to, who's like always right to Clark, even when Clark is always right. She's always right.
She's in my top 4.
Yeah, she's in one episode and the couple appearances she had, and her hollering to Barry to hit him, to sock him, saying he's a jerk. Like, she's very outspoken. She did a very good job at being Lois Lane, and I could see her doing more, and being really good.
Yes, and especially
She
a Lois Lane. Because, okay, yes, later on in Lois and Clark, Lois knew who Superman was. Okay? But this is a Lois Lane that's not afraid to do stuff knowing that's who Superman is. Like there's a comment where Clark says, watch that ladder, it's old. And it's kind of neat to go back the way he's talking to her in the episode, because I was rewatching it. Having seen the end, when he goes to tell Carl, like, I need to talk to you about something, that's when he's going to tell her about Lois being pregnant, I think, and wanting to go back to Argo. But they get interrupted. So you kind of see Clark, being protective of Lois, knowing what, we know now.
Yeah. So part one of the crossover, we get Barry and Oliver waking up in each other's lives. And this is where the real character development comes in for both of them. They have to learn to be each other, and that's how they draw on each other's abilities.
Which I thought was really kind of neat. It's a way of seeing each other's through each other's eyes. Like,
yeah,
Oliver, not jumping ahead to her, later makes a statement about never really thinking about the stuff that Barry's gone through, because Barry decides to put on a smile and be hopeful, and his outlook on life.
And it was nice to see Stephen Amell in these episodes
smiling,
having a smile and cracking jokes. And in the first part, we get to see Barry turn the tables on Oliver and shoot him in the back with the remote control bow and arrows.
And Oliver gets pissed, but Barry's just having fun.
Yeah, which you can obviously see why. I mean, it was certainly a different training method when he did it to Barry, and Barry did it for kicks because he could. That's where the character growth comes from, and it was really nice to see them both having to play each other, and play off each other, being one another.
Yes.
So and then interacting with the supporting cast, So part one was really good, and when they breached to Earth 38, and as soon as it came on, you saw Smallville. Just straight shots from the show.
Oh,
the town.
It was stock footage from the show.
It used the
theme song came on. And man, did I...
Oh, I was geeking out.
Dude, I just had a big dumb smile on my face, okay?
Me too.
Junia
Me
looked
too,
back
absolutely.
at me, and I was just like, like, just like, and then the farm, and I was like, as excited I was as soon as like it showed like Tyler there. I always want to be like, let's just watch Smallville. Just don't listen to Smallville.
So, and then, speaking of Lois Lane and her spunk and everything, I mean, they breach into the barn and she's right there and she's got a hammer. Like she is ready to hit him. Like, who the hell are you? And, you just popped out of nowhere in this barn, this barn in the middle of nowhere. Like, something I didn't notice the first time I watched it. And then I heard it being said on another podcast. So when I was doing some of my rewatch tonight, I noticed it. I didn't notice it the first time. I can't believe I didn't. When Kara introduces them, oh, this is my cousin, and Barry's like, oh, that cousin, your super cousin, and Oliver stands up tall.
Oh yeah, puffs his chest
out. And Barry even asks him, "Are you puffing your chest up?" He's like, "Yes."
Yeah. He's like, yes.
He even asked him, and I missed it the first time, but I went back, and that is so hilarious. Like, dude, no matter how much you puff your chest out, and you got that speed, especially since you don't know how to use it, no matter how much you puff your chest out, you are nothing right now.
Yeah, and I like how he's like, "Oh no, just call him Clark." Like he's just, it's just Clark, guys.
Yep.
And they're all, and I love it because like Oliver's just like what was it? Was it the last crossover in Crosses of Earth X when like Oliver shows up on a motorcycle and he's like, "I'm the only one that doesn't have super speed."
Right.
And he's just all pissed off.
Super speed. I don't have it.
And they're like, "Oh yeah. Sorry."
Right. The Amazo robot was pretty awesome.
Dude,
so when I saw that on the poster,
sweet. I wasn't sure if it was Amazo or not.
That was my first thought, was Amazo when I saw it on the poster. I was like, they're not going to bring back Metallo. One, it's not green. There's no kryptonite. So I was like, they're not going to bring back Metallo. It couldn't be. And then I was like, what other android could it be? And or robot could it be? And I mean, the first thing that popped in my mind was Amazo. I mean, maybe the colors a little bit, it's kind of goldish orange slightly. But and the way they explained it, because the way they explained it, how this machine can copy meta powers using a nanite infused Mirakuru serum that could identify and mimic the meta powers and stuff. That was actually pretty awesome.
It was nice because it was something that was like, okay, I can go with that.
Mm-hmm. I love how Oliver's mistake, because he didn't know how to use his powers, his mistake is what brought him to life. So it's still consequences.
Yes.
Even with just what's going on, consequences. You have failed this city. I don't think that's your line.
Like, can we just take a moment to just talk about how when the guys wake up and they try to explain, like, we're somebody else. I understand that reality is rewritten, so their teammates might not think like that, but they've had some weird crap go on.
Yeah.
Like when they nanite drug Oliver / Barry, and then they punch out Barry / Oliver. Like, I was just kind of like, really, Team Flash? Like, really? Like, I thought better of you guys.
Yeah, I mean, they've dealt with some weird stuff. So just to go to the extreme of like, knock them out, put them in the pipeline, and we'll deal with this later, or we'll deal with this moving forward. Like, instead of giving them the benefit of the doubt, I wouldn't see them putting Barry in the pipeline like right off rip like that.
Yeah. And speaking of the pipeline, we learn where the toilets are in the pipeline.
Yes, we do.
Which I thought was just kind of funny.
Well, it's something that people have been asking since season 1. It really is. How do people, they're in a little square room, they're in a box.
They're in a prison.
There's no toilet, there's no bed, there's nothing. It's like that place is Guantanamo Bay for freaking metas.
Yep.
It's like, no, the bed's probably stored in the wall. Same thing as the toilet. There's probably a sink stored in the wall somewhere. There's probably a little hatch that allows them to have food brought in or whatever.
Yeah.
So it was really cool. I liked when they finally came back, from Earth 38, and it was all of them versus Amazo.
Yes.
Like Superman flew in and he's flying around and he comes in and he smashes him down into the street. It's pretty awesome. And then Oliver Barry Arrow tells him, "You got lucky." Telling Superman he got lucky.
He's got Oliver's got balls.
So yeah, part 1 ends with Barry and Oliver vibing with Cisco and seeing the monitor, which is actually really cool how the monitor can see them during the vibe, which is pretty awesome.
He just looks back like, "What you guys doing?"
Yeah, right. You sounded pretty much just like him.
I do.
But yeah, the speed drawing and the memory that Oliver has, he drew, and they determined they're going to Gotham City. Wayne Tower. He's seen Wayne Tower in the background,
which is cool. I mean, it works. We've been dropping Gotham references for a little while now on Arrow. We've had Bloodhaven
for years.
References. And I like how they talk about the Batman like he's an urban legend or a myth. And Oliver's like, "I was the original vigilante."
Yeah, in the beginning of part 2. I like that because Batman has to have been going for obviously more than 7 years.
So I like to think that it's kind of like the Affleck Batman, where he's been Batman for a while and then he's really kept a low profile with the city and everything, to where no one unless you're like a criminal or stuff, like it's still like, is it an urban legend? It's kind of far fetched and hard to believe.
Right. That he's so much better too than Oliver. You know, I mean, the stories that criminals would have to tell. I mean, it's like, you know, fear and I mean the villains that he's taken down. You know, the theatrics, the shadows, the toys, the techniques.
Well, just think about it.
Everything that comes from Batman.
Batman was a child who decided to do something as a child and spent his whole life prepping.
Yeah.
Oliver decided to do something like 13 years ago, 12 years ago, you know, when he had his island incident, and started from there. You know, Batman knew how to keep his company's money, you know, and put it to use for him. So he had been preparing for this his entire life.
Mm-hmm.
So of course he's going to be much better.
Yeah, way better. Yeah, that was really cool. I'm the original vigilante.
Okay. Little penis over there, Oliver.
Pretty much. So yeah, they go to Gotham City, which looks awesome. I mean, Barry pulls the sheet, the tarp off of the bat signal, and Batman is real. So awesome. I'd have to say, I mean, I enjoyed the whole thing. I enjoyed all 3 parts, but the amount of Easter eggs that they had in part 2, just referencing Batman and everything Batman in Gotham City, was definitely my favorite part. Part 2 was my favorite part, just a little bit above part 3. Part 3 I enjoyed as much because it was a Supergirl episode. There was Superman versus Superman. You know, they had a lot of action. It was, you know, it was time to wrap it up. So they had a lot of good stuff. Plus, you know, the ending back on the Smallville Kent farm and in the fortress, which they ripped off the proposal from Smallville, but whatever.
It's cool, whatever.
We crushes the coal in his hand to make a diamond ring.
Charcoal.
Yes.
That's how
was
Superman
charred too.
He is, man. That's how Superman he is. He used charcoal, and it came out perfect.
Yeah. And it was burning too. It was red hot. It wasn't even just a piece of coal. He pulled it right out of the grill. The dynamic between Lois and Clark again was really good. So I really enjoyed part 3. But definitely part 2 with Gotham City, the bat signal, the criminals, they're walking through an alley and they get mugged by a gang like all the gang in tactical gear, Yeah. So it's a tough gang, a tough streets in Gotham City. And
Oliver even says how dead it is and how crappy it is that Gotham basically is a ghost town.
Yeah, people don't talk about Gotham.
There's a reason.
Yeah. So yeah, that was pretty awesome. Kara catches the bullet. She snatches it right out of midair, and it was pretty awesome to see Barry, to see Grant Gustin, doing the physical role, kicking their asses the way he did, instead of just super speeding around and doing what he always does as the Flash. Got to see him do what Stephen Amell does, what Arrow does, taking people down.
Yeah.
And even the cops, the cops they're there to arrest everybody, and they end up arresting the vigilantes. They end up arresting Oliver and company because he's the Green Arrow.
Yep.
Like, not worrying about the gang that just like mugged these guys, and like they're just walking through the alley, but and then Arkham Asylum,
dude,
that was cool.
Okay, so pause real quick there. This is my other big beef with this, is this episode felt like you could almost cut this out and just watch the first and the third Elseworlds to be like the main story. I mean, yes, we do get Deegan in Arkham. That's where he's working and stuff. But I really feel like they sold us on the crossover that Batwoman was coming. And she gets like 2 scenes, maybe 3. Like, she looked great. I actually really liked her. And I almost would have just preferred a World's Finest episode or something of Batwoman and Supergirl. Or something where Batwoman shows up with on Arrow or something, because I feel like being part of the big crossover kind of shortchanged her.
Yeah. Well, speaking of World's Finest, jumped right towards the end there. I mean, wow, what did you think about that World's Finest line?
I like it because
I'd love to see a World's Finest with Supergirl and Batwoman.
And that's fine with me because, like a friend of mine were talking today about Batman is, Batman has weird TV rights. And I know they're going to change again because of the whole Disney buyout thing. And, we were lucky that we got Superman on TV. Superman's always had success on TV. And it's made sense to have Superman appear on Supergirl. He hasn't been a major player, but he's been in a total of what? 3. He wasn't in the second part, was he?
No.
Okay, so he was in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 episodes of Supergirl. Total. So, and that's sprinkled between 3 seasons. And so it kind of makes, his world a part of Supergirl's because they are connected in a lot of ways. So, they want to bring in Batwoman's, I think, the smartest choice for TV. She's a character like nobody really knows. There's no we know how DC's been with their movies where they don't want to have one on TV and one on the movies, which makes no sense either, but we won't go down that rabbit hole. Nobody's starting to make a Batwoman movie.
Yeah.
So Batwoman makes a great sense. We're supposed to get a Batwoman series, supposedly, which would be awesome because everybody likes the Bat universe. And like you said, the Easter eggs at Arkham just proves how exciting that was. Arkham looked great.
Yeah, Arkham looked fantastic.
So much better than
you
the
take that back.
Arkham that we got in Gotham,
Yeah. You take the setback that they used for Arkham Asylum, you take that back to the orphanage in Smallville.
Yes.
That they've reused in, I'm pretty sure, Arrow. I can't remember where else. I know I've seen it a couple more times, but yeah, you take that.
The staircase.
The staircase.
That staircase
out front. The staircase out front, and the staircase inside. Even the same little cubicle or the same little office with the windows and everything where Kara brings Caitlin in to get into the asylum because of her abilities.
It's the same.
Perfect.
It's the same staircase we got to see Clark get shot in an episode of Smallville, where Martian Manhunter had to save him and everything. It's the same staircase we got to see Dean Winchester walk down with.
Yep. Supernatural.
Tesla.
That's another place I've seen it. Yes.
Oh, dude, Supernatural in Smallville back in the day, man. Like you could watch their sets. The set in Smallville season 10 with the blue kryptonite, where Clark saves Lois by being burnt by the Amish people, is like the same set they used for Supernatural the last 2 episodes of season 2, where they were in a western town, and it was in the western episodes of Supernatural where they time travel. But they did film some scenes, I guess, in Chicago for Gotham, which I think is interesting because they're so quick. Like, if you didn't point them out to me, I would have thought. Just because it was nighttime. I've never been to Canada. I feel like I have because I see it on all my TV shows.
Right.
But the Wayne Tower building felt like the Queen Consolidated building, just redressed. But I liked Batwoman, and from the beginning, I had wished that Batwoman was on Earth 38, just so that Supergirl would get somebody else with her on her Earth, other than crossing over to the other Earth where all the heroes are. But
yeah,
we'll hold that.
With the dynamic between those two in this episode, Kara and Kate, Ruby Rose did such a good job.
And I'm not
as Kate Kane and as Batwoman.
I'm not a Ruby Rose hater. She's okay. Like, I've never been like, oh, I really like her. I've always been like, she's okay, But I really liked her in this. And Junia's the same way. She's like, she's never been like, oh, I love Ruby Rose, or it's always been just like, okay. But when we were watching this, she's like, I like her as this part. I was like, I do too. And the thing is, what I like about the character is, if you think about, we learned that Batman's been gone for a few years. Okay, Bruce is gone. We've had mentions of Clark's friend, which is alluding to Batman in episodes of Supergirl. So I wish it was on Earth 38, just because, that's Clark's friend, because both Kate and Kara share the thing that they are the subsidiary heroes to their cousins.
Yeah.
Kate Kane being Bruce's cousin, Kara being Superman's cousin. But in this case, it's another, cousin.
Right. Well, it was really nice to see them together the way they did. The interactions with Kate and Kara in Bruce's office. I loved when she pulled the head, the statue out of the box, and I forget what she called it, but it was the 66 Batman, where he flips the head back and he pushes the button and it opens up the bookcase for them to slide down the banisters.
Exactly. So, like you said, the Easter eggs are just ridiculous. We had that. We had the Dark Knight Rises Bane mask.
Oh, that was fantastic. I love that.
In the offices.
Nora Freeze freaking out because she's awake. She's not frozen.
I was trying to figure out if she was freaking out because she was awake or it was because something happened and now Victor didn't have his cold temperature. And she was trying to get something to cool off Victor.
Right. Well, the first time I watched it, I wasn't sure what was going on. But when I did the second rewatch, some of the things she said about her being up, her not being cold, her not being cold. I'm pretty sure that she was kind of freaking out about her, her not being awake or her not being frozen at the time.
So that makes sense.
But the names that they had on the Arkham City doors, they had Oswald Cobblepot, they had Pamela Isley, they had Edward Nigma, and they even put Mark Guggenheim on one of the doors.
Mark Guggenheim. Did we see a Harvey Dent? I can't remember. I want to say yes, but I can't remember.
I don't recall seeing a Harvey Dent. Oh, no. The other one we saw was Basil Carlo.
That's right.
Clayface. That's the other one. I knew I was forgetting one. Yeah, that's the other one we saw. But I mean, how expansive is that? I mean, just building a Bat world in one single episode like that, having all of those names on the door, even a Clayface name, a Poison Ivy name.
Just going back to what we said about like the idea of a Superman series is with Batwoman, we were able to introduce her in a world where Batman's already existed and we already have a universe built. And we're kind of coming in now with this character. So we could, if you wanted, you could have Nightwing or Robin or Batgirl or we already had Huntress, but she was supposed to come back but never did. And of course the villains, because let's face it, that's one of the best things about Batman that everybody loves is all the villains.
Yeah. Really cool. So many villains. In the episode, Oliver breaks open a case of Jonathan Crane fear toxin gas and gets, Oliver and Barry get dosed with Scarecrow's fear gas, which is awesome.
Yes, because then they see themselves fighting. Oliver sees
Oliver sees Thawne.
Yep.
And Barry sees Merlin. And it was really cool because they actually got to see, because they are literally consciousness switched bodies.
Yes.
So they still got to see what's in each other's head at that moment. And that was really interesting. And that's another piece to that character development, it was really nice to have the focus in this crossover down to the main three.
Yes.
Down to the big three for the CW TV. So that was really cool. And then, we even had Psycho Pirate introduced in this episode. She comes back again, which was awesome.
Which was the man with the gold mask.
Yes, the man with the gold mask. I knew it came from somewhere, and I couldn't think of it. And I had heard that in reference to Heroes in Crisis, the gold mask.
Yeah.
And when it came up, I couldn't remember. And that's when I messaged you.
that popped in my head. But I was like, that's too soon to reference. And it's not even done because I just read the next issue of it.
Right. Just read issue 3.
So I was like, that doesn't make sense. And I'm like, but I remember someone saying something about Psycho Pirate, so I was keeping an eye out with all the other stuff going on. And then I was like, just to make sure, I was like, let me message the Godfather himself, Phil Parrish, and I did for confirmation.
Mm-hmm. Where are we at? So Batwoman arrives at Arkham after the breakout, and the way she comes down on top of the van, Batman, the Dark Knight style, right down on top of the van and smashes it.
which was awesome.
Yeah.
That's her big thing, like that right there. And then she does the like she shoots her grappler.
Yep.
And then we see she runs in when Barry and Oliver are fighting each other and does like a sweet like jump and like hits them both. One gets kicked and one gets punched.
Yeah. She drops them both. I mean, how BA is she, you know? I mean, comes in, boom, smashes a van. Grapnel yanks a dude into the windshield, Psycho Pirate into the windshield and knocks him down. You know, she throws the Batarang and it hits dude and ricochets off the wall and comes back. And then one kick and one punch, she drops down both the Flash and the Arrow, even though they're fighting each other. But one kick, one punch, and she drops them both. So that suit looks awesome too. I mean, suits always look awesome since the stills, which is odd for the CW stills, but still
always
looks
the main characters
awesome.
Always get the best suits. Some of the secondary characters get lesser quality suits, you know, sometimes, but the main characters always get the best. I mean, Flash. I mean, Oliver's gone through. Let's see, 1. Then he added a mask. Then he got 2. Then the short sleeves. Then he got the long sleeves. So he's going to, I want to say 4, because like he hasn't had like drastic changes, but subtle. Like, you know, his suit got a little greener, you know, later on, the one he has now, and it has the sleeves back. But Barry, we can tell when he changes suits. He's gone through 4 suits in 5 seasons.
Mm-hmm. Hey, speak of the Flash suit again. The suit has been on the mannequin since the first episode of the season where it came out of the ring. So we haven't seen the ring back, how to get the suit back in the ring or anything like that. It's actually been on the mannequin again since the beginning. But come the beginning of the crossover, it's back in the ring, and Oliver actually gets to shoot it out and suit up.
Which I thought kind of sucked, man, because I was like, that's taken away from Barry.
I hope they go back to that again.
Yep.
Like they finally brought it on, but nope, they're still putting that suit on the mannequin.
But you know, Batwoman looks great. Her suit looks comic accurate and functional. It looks, there's some high cosplay that I see, you know, that looks really good. Mm-hmm. This looks functional, tactical for the purposes, as well as looking comic accurate. So I really want to see more of it, because I feel like it was just the tip of the character. Like, we didn't really get enough
right
of her.
I hope they move forward, and you know, I'm pretty sure I saw an article that said that they were filming the pilot, that the pilot was going to get filmed.
Yeah, so I mean, I hope, and I mean, okay, so if they film the pilot, I wonder if it'll leak. I say that because I almost feel like, remember how they leaked the Flash pilot leaked, and then Supergirl's pilot leaked, but I almost feel like that was like a way of testing the audience.
Right, gauging some interest on social media and the internet and things.
Because then if something, you know, didn't work, they're like, well, it's not done. You know, we haven't finished. Right. That was just a test. Like we were still in reshoots or whatever. And then and then when they do release, because I mean, I had a friend who downloaded the Flash pilot for me when it leaked, and I watched that thing like maybe 8 times before it aired, because I want to say it leaked in the summer. Yeah, it leaked in the summer and it didn't premiere till October. Mm-hmm. So I watched the crap out of it and still watched it when it premiered live.
Right. So the interesting thing about the crossover here and them each being kind of like episodes tied to the show, the individual show. Mm-hmm. So in the Flash, you know, they discuss some Cicada and stuff like that, you know, so they address what they've been to up to this point. And, you know, they still don't go too much further than the mid-season finale, the episode prior, the week prior.
Right.
Same thing with Arrow. they address what's going on, the issues between Oliver and Felicity. Having their problems be there. It was nice to have Felicity working with Cisco and Caitlin again. To develop that, I forget what they call it, but that magnet to draw 90s Barry Allen to them.
Which was cool, and he was barely in it. He showed up and basically popped out and was like, the Monitor, and then it shows him like standing like they're all going to fight together, and the Monitor just wishes him away. Just
it was kind of it was almost like Batwoman. They made a big deal about John Wesley Shipp being Barry Allen, being the 90s Flash, him being there standing with the crew, and stuff like that. Exactly. Did they or did we? At least they gave Batwoman something to do.
I feel like we, the fans, beefed up the John Wesley Flash being there. And I mean, of course, that opening scene with him running from the Monitor was the tag on every one of the shows last week.
Right.
But I mean, it was cool. Like, I kind of wish they hadn't shown it, just because a lot of people had it built up in their heads.
Yeah. And it was the same thing with like, it's the same thing though with Supergirl, when it comes to it, like dealing with the immediate effects of what had happened from the mid-season finale the week prior, but not really going anywhere with it. So I think they did a good job of being able to, utilize the crossover, utilize what had happened, but still not, advance the plot forward for any of the shows.
Yeah.
It was,
pretty self-contained. I think, like I said, the biggest thing being Kara just discussing things with Clark. But I think we about covered it, man. Any other final thoughts on Elseworlds?
Well, I mean, we go into part 3. Reality's been rewritten again. Barry and Oliver don't have their powers. Oliver's still just, kicking butt. We get Supergirl's supporting cast. John Deegan being black suited Superman. That suit looked actually pretty cool in motion.
The thing about that suit was, and I pointed this out, is I liked it because I liked the boots better. I like the collar on it. I think the collar works better with this style of suit. And it looked a little, a little bit different. For some reason, the regular Superman suit looked a little bit more rubbery this time. Like on his chest when he was moving, and the symbol looked a little bit more rubbery. But, because it reminded me, I like the Mon-El suit, and I wish they would have taken some of the ideas they did with the Mon-El suit to make a Superman suit. But the black Superman suit, I really like the boots. But I like the Mon-El suit's belt. I wish they would do something like that. I think we'd almost.
Yeah, I think that would break up the blue a little bit in his suit, and not just the solid red across the waist.
Yeah, I just think the belt is so awkward, the way they did it right now.
Yeah. So, we kind of already talked about, part 3 here earlier. We definitely jumped into the Superman, Supergirl stuff. Hey, that's what the podcast is about.
Exactly.
So we already talked about that. So part 3 was good. I enjoyed part 3 too. I really, all the crossovers have a lot to like about them, and a lot of things that are individual to each one. And this Elseworlds, really cool, like Elseworlds, changing the world. It's literally an Elseworld. Reality is warped. So I think they used the title aptly. I think they used it well. It was fun. Yes. It was really good. It was nice. I thought it was hilarious, them getting to knock on Oliver the way they did, about his past.
Oh yeah.
the way he got around and that kind of stuff.
You know what? Screw it. We're going to talk to it right now. 2019 Crisis on Infinite Earths. Like, boom. Like, isn't that what we've thought of since we first saw the pilot of The Flash when it said red skies?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that was crazy. But now we have so many characters in play.
It's going to be pretty cool. I mean, Infinite Earths, we already know the multiverse. We already know a lot of characters have played themselves in different areas, especially the Flash characters. They've played them different versions of themselves in the multiverse. And then with Crisis on Earth X, we had a few other people play themselves or play different versions of themselves. So it'll be pretty awesome to see how big they decide to go with it. I mean, they get past people to play different versions, legacy characters, what have you.
With the legacy characters, okay, let's kind of start from the beginning with our thoughts here. Do you think it's the Anti-Monitor that's coming? That's why because the Monitor says the threat that's coming, the Monitor's there. So do you think it's the Anti-Monitor that's coming? I mean, it's the only thing that makes sense, but
I assume so.
So I mean that. Now here's something that I wonder. Now this is just me, okay? There's no evidence, but it's just me. It says coming 2019. It didn't say fall or winter or next crossover. What if the Infinite Crisis thing plays out towards the end of the seasons this year? So that it's set, because I've said this before, and I said this before the crossover happened over on Capes and Lunatics, was my idea would be to do like a Crisis event, fold everything into one Earth, because, especially with this one proving that Batwoman takes place on Earth 1, like they're not doing anything with Earth 38. They're not giving us more characters or more things to expand that Earth. They keep expanding Earth 1. So having Supergirl and, I mean, even Black Lightning, I think that could be kind of cool. He doesn't have to be like buddy with everybody, but just kind of folding it all into one Earth would be cool, because it kind of felt like they set up Batwoman and Supergirl together. Like, oh, we're going to have adventures together. Well, on one Earth, we could do that. And if they do a Batwoman show, like, it would be neat that next fall when everything kicks off, they're all on one Earth now. And to further that idea wouldn't it be neat if, like, how you're talking about certain people play certain characters, is the only Harrison Wells, for example, that's left is Harry from Earth 2. And then maybe we get Ralph of Earth, like, 5 is the Ralph that they're interacting with. Then you have maybe a character like Cisco who starts to have problems because he remembers all the different lives that he lived on every other Earth. So almost like he has multiple personalities type thing, because he's channeling every Cisco from every Earth.
Oh, wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like some stories like that could happen, because basically by folding the Earths in, there's only one of everybody,
Right.
It could be something where there's a battle to see what Earth survives, or,
right. Well, I just actually did a check on it real quick. It does say coming fall 2019.
Dang it.
Because I thought it said coming fall 2019.
Man, I just got overexcited. Oh, well. Can't blame me for being too excited.
Oh, no, it's definitely something to be excited for sure. So I do kind of hope that the Crisis on Infinite Earths does exactly that, kind of folds everything into one, because then it does allow for more potential stories to be told, with characters being involved in each other's stories. It doesn't have to just be your annual crossover,
Right.
For at some point here or there, Supergirl and Batwoman can have crossovers, basically being more of like your Superman Batman storylines or your Supergirl Batwoman storylines.
And you know who, honestly, what I'd like to see is I'd like to see Supergirl and Arrow, because they never interact without Barry. It's almost like they're friends because of Barry, but like seeing their relationship, how they work together, just them two, would be an interesting episode.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've seen Barry and Kara together, and then seeing just Barry and Oliver, or we've seen Barry and Oliver, but seeing just Kara and Oliver would be really neat.
Yeah.
So that would be cool to have. Okay. Now in the Crisis story, that's of course where Barry Allen died and Supergirl both died, and they kind of alluded to that in this third Elseworlds story, where they're spinning the Earth in opposite directions to kind of slow the Earth to help slow time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what if, Lois, and if they don't do a Superman show, we're just going to say there's no Superman show, okay? What if, in this case, Lois gives birth on Argo to John? They come back to Earth. Superman's the one that dies in the Crisis event. And now Kara, in a sense, has come full circle. So instead of watching her cousin grow up and protecting him as an infant, she now has to help protect and raise her second cousin, you know? And kind
That's
of
an
looks out
interesting theory.
and helps raise John. Because if you're not going to do a Superman show and you're just kind of waste that character, I mean, the problem is now that Superman's there, you have to keep writing him out of the story. You know, they wrote him, he was off-world in Argo. Okay, that explained why he wasn't around, for stuff that's been going on. In Kara's story last year and some this year, they had to address that.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to keep finding ways to do that for us to be like, why isn't he helping if this is such a big deal? Or why isn't Kara helping him with what's going on with him? So if they're not going to do anything with his character, having him die in the Crisis event gives a big send-off to that character.
Right. What you just what you brought up there at the beginning, the fact that in Crisis, Barry and Kara are the ones are the two characters who die in the comic, in the story. Well, in this crossover here, they were actually both the ones who were going to die. I wonder if that wasn't alluding to the fact that they were going to die, not particularly like in Crisis on Infinite Earths, but their destinies were to die already.
Yes.
So if they were to die already, that's kind of alluding to what they would have done. Like, it's an adaptation, obviously, that they would have died. That what deal did Oliver make that's going to be different? You know what I mean? Like, considering their destinies, to die in Crisis on Infinite Earths. Well, their destinies were to die already. Their destinies were to die at the end of in part 3 of this crossover. So that destiny has already been changed. So we can't look for them to die in Crisis on Infinite Earths. So obviously there's a deal that was struck, and I mean, with Arrow going, obviously Arrow's going to be coming to a close soon. If not this season, next season.
I think they won't close it out till after next season. If they're going to do Crisis, they're going to, and they're going to try to pull something off. They're not going to cancel Arrow yet. If anything, they'll give it a send off where Arrow will get killed in the Crisis event or something.
Right.
Because they wouldn't set up that he did, like you said, that deal with the Monitor if they're not really going to pay that off.
Right. So, I kind of think that, with it being an adaptation, their destinies were to have died already. I don't think he just pushed their destinies to die later in Crisis on Infinite Earths. So I think they just alluded to that part of the story already right now.
Yeah, and I mean,
and then something else is going to happen.
I am not completely.
I hope they don't kill off Superman. Honestly, obviously, I'm hoping that they create a Superman show, which kind of brings me to Tyler's performance here in part 1 and part 3. Like, obviously, when he showed up at the beginning of season 2 of Supergirl, he was somewhat similar. He wasn't Brandon Routh similar to Christopher Reeve. So, but he was something. He was the Clark Kent disguise.
Yeah.
So it was nice in this one, part 1 and part 3, to be able to see him as Clark and as Superman. He got to be himself. He got to actually make this version of Superman himself. He didn't have to be the disguise. He got to be himself. He got to be Superman, and both sides of himself, just being himself around people who know him and know who he is and everything that he's capable of. So it allowed him to kind of stretch his legs and be his own character of Superman. And I want to see that continued, where Tyler actually gets to explore those versions of his character, all 3, the disguise, as well as himself, who he is as Superman and who he is as Clark, around people who know him.
And by no means am I saying that I want him to die. I'm just saying that from a writer kind of point of view, and with trying to figure out a way of what to do something with a character that you have introduced but can't do something with, is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that's what I want to happen. Because you said,
it's the same thing.
This is the first time that we can do a Superman story from the beginning where we have established Superman, we have established Lois and Clark's relationship, and then they takes us into new territory with a child that we haven't seen. We've had setups, but we've never come full circle with it. And yes, this Superman / Clark that we got in the crossover was the real him. I've always said, and we've always kind of, you and I talked about this, that you have Clark the disguise.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have Superman, which is on the other end. It's in a way, Superman is also a disguise.
Yeah.
It's Clark in a certain behavior. But then this Clark, and I like how, if you look at it, I kind of play it like this: flannel shirt Clark. Because he's always kind of wearing the dress clothes as the disguise, because he's always dressed up for his reporter job, and then the Superman suit. But then jeans and a flannel like a farm boy. That's him. That's him being him.
It's like Welling when he could be himself on the farm. He could just be him. He could just be Clark.
Exactly. and that's what it is, and that's what he got to play with. Because when we were talking earlier, and I started to come to the same, I'm like, man, he felt different this time. And then the more as I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, because when he shows up at the DEO and when he interacts with people, he's this, I'm Superman. There's a not a performance, but there's a certain way he shows himself.
He's larger than life, and people look at him that way, and he has to kind of be that way.
And so when we finally get the this whole thing is him pulling back and just getting a chance to be himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and if they do, we're always hoping that they do, especially since there are no immediate plans for years into the future here for any kind of Superman movie. Let's get more Superman on TV. We have Hecklin, we have a Lois Lane. We have a Lex Luthor coming. We definitely and we have a new dynamic that has never been explored except for in recent years in comics. That there is Jonathan Kent, or a young Superboy, a family dynamic, where he gets to be the dad as well as getting to be Superman. Like, he doesn't even John Kent doesn't even have to be like Superboy out the gate,
right?
You know what I mean? He could be potentially be a Superboy in like a season 2 or a season 3.
And I mean, for a character whose whole story has been like two fathers, Jor-El and Jonathan Kent. And I'm going to use Jonathan to refer to the father and John as the son.
Yeah.
Did you know how I'm not a fan of people naming their kids after their parents because it gets confusing? But
hey, I'm the third and my son is the fourth.
I know. I mean, that was always one thing, like with my name. Side tangent. My father is Jeff and my mother is Tanya. So what they did was, I'm Jonathan Tyler. So I have their initials, built into my name. So that's kind of like how they honor themselves through me type thing.
Right. Well, you got 3 first names, so I mean, you're destined to be like a serial killer or a bomber or something like that, anyway. So
I was thinking just a famous like director, but yeah, sure. Mass murder fits too. But in this, excuse me. But in the same way, like that's kind of that's I feel that it would be a great dynamic. I mean, I feel. You don't hire someone like Tyler. Not saying he's like this big star, but the guy's had some solid TV hits and has a following. You don't hire him to just come off and one-off it. Especially you don't add Lois and hire Bitsy. I cannot pronounce Is it Tulak? To come in.
Tulak, I think.
I'm horrible with names. You guys know this. You don't hire her to be Lois for a one-off. She's a TV actress. She did 7 years of Grimm.
Yeah, 6 seasons of Grimm, I think.
You don't get someone who has that potential to carry the character. Now, if you got like a casting of somebody, like an example, how, they got Dean Cain and Helen Slater to be the Danvers. The Danvers pop in and out. Mm-hmm. That's also like honor casting, or how you got Terry Hatcher to appear as Lois Lane's mom in one episode of Smallville. That character was never designed to go forward. It was just kind of a big deal to have that person there for that character. But you don't hire these people that actually have the potential to grow these characters and then just be like, especially the way they handled Lois in this. And you don't develop the story of them without having some sort of plan to carry on.
Yeah. I mean, that's one reason why I enjoyed like Ben Affleck's Batman so much. And maybe, that's still even a little farther along than what we're discussing, but it's a version of the character that is fully established. And in this friggin' geek haven of a world where there is so much content, and they're bringing so many more characters to the forefront. There's so many origin stories, and everybody has to start from the beginning. But if you look at characters like Spider-Man and Batman and Superman, especially those ones who have been done and redone so many times.
We can just jump in.
You can just jump in. You can allude for the general audience. You can allude to an origin at some point. And it doesn't even have to be in the first film. It can be in the second or the third, where you allude to the origin or even touch, like bring the story, bring what's currently going on back to the origin. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be in the first film. because these characters are so established, you can jump right in and have them be who they are. Not saying that I don't love like Henry Cavill's Man of Steel and BVS and Justice League to a degree.
Right.
But I love Henry Cavill as Superman, and they grew him in as a character. But
it's just like the way they did Spider-Man. Let's look at Spider-Man. We had Spider-Man, and that's more recent because that started in 2002?
Civil War and talking about Raimi Spider-Man.
Yeah, and that was 2002 to 2008 was his three films were in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got 2011 was The Amazing.
Yeah.
And then
something like that.
13 or 14 was The Amazing 2. And then 2016 was Civil War.
17 Far From Home. Infinity War or Homecoming.
And then Infinity War.
Far From Home's coming.
And then Far From Home. So 16, 17, 18, and 19, we will have seen Spider-Man on the screen for 4 years in a row.
Yeah. And not one of them has been an origin story. And you don't.
That's the beauty of with his just introducing him real quick with some dialogue in Civil War and giving us it's Homecoming is not an origin story, it's kind of an awakening story.
Yeah. I just feel that characters like Spider-Man, like Batman, especially Batman and Superman, these characters are 80 years old. Batman's almost there. These characters are 80 years old, and they are the most recognizable characters in the entire world. You show somebody the Superman symbol, you show somebody the Batman symbol. People from third world countries know these symbols, damn near.
It's the perfect way. And if you want to tell something, dialogue, flashbacks, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going on our tangents, and that's what we do. But let's jump back.
But I would just love to see a version of Superman where he is fully established. And, there have been a history of adventures, and you can still revisit those characters from those history of adventures and tell new and original stories. But to see these characters in a fully established and new dynamics, you don't have to always keep going back to the beginning to start something.
Right. So back with our Crisis conversation, one of the biggest things that we've seen on the internet and talk is with Crisis, will we see because we'll establish Earth 90,
mm-hmm.
which is where we see the John Wesley ship Flash, and he shows up and says he's from Earth 90. First of all, how do you know what Earth you're on? You know what I'm saying? Like right. Harry say it in Flash season 2, how do you know I'm not Earth 1? Why am I Earth 2? So for him to show up and be like, I'm from Earth 90, it's kind of funny. That means
right.
The Flash, I guess, would be the one person who could maybe calculate what Earth is what, but still, it's kind of a funny concept.
But every Flash would be like, I'm from Earth 1. My Earth is Earth 1.
So it's just kind of a funny concept, which, we saw hints at that Earth. We saw the Green Arrow Smallville outfit.
Mm-hmm.
So, in theory, that Earth could be the Smallville Earth, because Barry Allen never showed up on Smallville. And then because Henry Allen plays Barry grown up, you can use the actor to be the son grown up, okay? So, but my thought is, people are saying they want to see Welling back for the crossover, or bring in have an aged Gerard Christopher, show up as Superman, grown up from his Superboy role,
mm-hmm.
Which would be great and stuff. But how do you make up for the fact that you have people who you're Clark Kent on theirs? Why do you look completely different than Clark Kent from this Earth?
Right.
When every person we've met through this whole multiverse has looked the same. So yes, would I like to see this whole huge explosion of everyone that's played a character appear in this crossover? Yes.
Yeah.
Would it make a lot of logical sense?
Well, see, I mean, we kind of went over that before when we were talking about the multiverse too as well. Like, I don't think that every character has to be identical to the character before. I mean, if we brought in, like, say, multiple legacy castings, things like that, Brandon Routh is already involved as Ray Palmer, the Atom. I mean, he could potentially be a Brandon Routh version of Superman from another Earth. Welling could be a version of Superman from the Smallville Earth, or even like he could, which is some of the best acting he's done is his evil acting. Oh, yeah. He could be Ultraman from another Earth in Crisis. You could even suit up Dean Cain, and he could be Superman from the Lois and Clark Earth. I mean,
it's all possible. I mean,
yeah,
we're just spitballing. Like I said, there's a difference between what I would love to see and what I think logically makes sense for a writer or a production team to do.
Right.
So yeah. So I also I kind of getting back to this on my same thought process of why, from a story point of view, you'd have Superman die in Crisis. I feel kind of the same way with Kid Flash. Because I feel like he's a great character that they've kind of ruined because they didn't give him a whole lot to do when he was on Flash. I thought it was great when he went to Legends, but then he just left. So now Kid Flash is just kind of out there. So doing something maybe to kind of, just close out that character. Or during the Crisis, do some sort of like rebirth Wally West type thing, where another Wally West shows up that's different. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out here.
See, and now that's kind of an idea too that I was just thinking when you brought up Kid Flash. In the comics, why did Wally West like disappear or enter the Speed Force or something? And then why was he
in the Speed Force? When Manhattan did what he did to make the New 52. So
when he broke in at the Flashpoint time,
like the Flash was coming out of it or something, and Wally was in it, and he got erased from existence.
Okay,
and
so that was just
so that's why we got like the new Wally West type thing,
right in the New 52, and then Wally comes back in Rebirth.
So I mean, it'd be kind of neat if you want to, And another thing is, it's saying Crisis on Infinite Earth. But let's also take a step back and remember when they did Flashpoint.
Yeah.
It was Flashpoint in title, and it had the themes there, but it wasn't a direct adaptation of that story. So
yeah, not even close. The only thing was the resulting changes that impacted everybody. Other than that was about it. The resulting impact that had on people throughout the other shows, the Legends characters, Arrow, and the other Flash characters.
So, yes, that is the title of the crossover, but it doesn't mean it's going to be a direct adaptation story. I mean, it's going to be big. Yeah. It's going to have, I think, I think the thing that's going to come out of it is the multiverse imploding and folding into one. But any other thoughts on Crisis? Any other just thoughts in general?
The only thing I'm curious about is if it's going to be. Is it going to be a crossover? Are they going to put it into, say, Supergirl, Arrow, Legends, Flash, and even Black Lightning? Are they going to put it across 5 episodes? Is it going to be big, like 5 episodes, expanding it larger, or is it going to be more of an early season arc across all of the shows? You know what I'm saying?
I kind of hope
because it's kind of a big story.
I kind of hope
to fit in 3 to 4 episodes. I mean, if they gave it 5 and expanded it to all the shows that they currently have, and maybe if they pick up Batwoman, they could have it a 6-episode crossover.
See,
Between 6 episodes, and that would definitely give you a lot of time.
I kind of feel that Batwoman, the series, will premiere almost like, I kind of feel that she might appear again this season in one of the shows, pretty much Arrow, and then her own show might not start till like spring of 2020, or because it might do one of those like dual time slot things.
All right.
Because
do like what how Black Lightning debuted or how Legends debuted sometime in the middle with a shortened season.
Right, because like right now Legends is in their mid-season finale, but they're not coming back until like a while.
April, I think.
Yeah, because Black Lightning's going to finish out its run, and then Legends is going to come back in the Black Lightning time slot, much like they did Legends and Supergirl last year. So that's why I think the way they lined it up, though, it's Legends is still going to end closer to the time when everything else did, as opposed to going on for an extra month like Supergirl did. Yeah, because Black Lightning and Legends are both engineered to be shorter seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I kind of think Batman will feel in like that. And I kind of hope the crossover is designed more like Infinite Crisis is kind of designed more like the way they did Crisis on Earth X.
Yeah. Yeah. I assume so. I assume that's what it would be. And even so, with Black Lightning and Legends being shorter seasons, like Legends is shorter seasons, but it was still folded into Invasion and in Crisis on Earth X. They were still involved. And that's the same thing can be said with perhaps Black Lightning next year and perhaps Batwoman next year, even if they were to come in mid-season or shortened or just be involved in that, because it is Crisis on Infinite Earths. It would expand to all of them and every Earth. That if they had those 6 shows, I mean, is it possible to have it that big? You know, because one show is going to be ending, possibly Arrow, or most likely Arrow, as it goes forward. The
next thing I could think of would be is if the seasons end with some sort of allusion to the Crisis, and the crossover Crisis is like the beginning of the seasons next year. Like, and then
next year everything is imploded down into one universe.
So the first episodes of each season is like you kick off that season with like a huge Crisis movie, and then after that's when each individual season starts.
Right.
Their storylines.
Yeah. There's a lot of ways that they could potentially take this, depending on what they have planned.
And my thing is, I don't any more than this conversation. I don't want to think about it, because then you get into that. Well, man, I really like this idea I came up with, and then if they don't live to your expectations with whatever they choose to do,
right?
I don't want to be bummed. I just want to enjoy the fact that we have what we have with the TV universe.
Right.
We've never had a time where we've been able to be like, we've said this before. Remember when Smallville was the only comic book TV show? Then we got Birds of Prey, and then we lost Birds of Prey. Mm-hmm. We were like, we got Smallville. Now I'm like, I got Gotham, and Arrow, and Supergirl, and Black Lightning, and Legends, and Titans, and Flash.
And then soon Doom Patrol, and Swamp Thing, and Stargirl.
Now it's growing so massively that we have our DC content, so I'm not complaining about anything.
Crap, I had a thought now.
Nah, you're good. I have thoughts all the time. They leave me.
Yeah, I lost it. I'll think about it as soon as we're done. Like, man.
That's cool. But yeah, that's our final thoughts.
Oh yeah. No, it's just like I had talked to you before about it. I don't know if I had said it on the podcast before, but everybody gets their expectations. Everybody has ideas, things that they want to see, everything like that. And occasionally I'll be bummed with what happens, but I am pretty good about like leaving my expectations at the door when it comes to watching it and actually judging what actually appears on the screen as opposed to what I wanted to see, because I'm not the one who wrote it. I'm not the one who did anything. Like my expectations are one thing, but I'm trying to judge by what is actually there, not what I thought should have been there. I wasn't involved, so.
Right. Also, I speak my mind, but, at the end of the day, I'm happy that something's happening.
Yeah, that we have all of this content, that we actually have Batwoman on TV. I mean, whoever thought we would have seen a Batwoman? That we have Superman and Supergirl and Lois Lane, who's pregnant, and Arrow, Flash, crossovers, aliens, metahumans. I mean, all this DC content that we just listed off. I mean, that's
multiple shows.
Huge. Yeah, multiple shows, multiple channels, streaming, what have you. It's amazing. It's a great time to be a DC fan.
Look up in the sky.
Look up in the sky.
Look up in the sky. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Krypton Report. You can also email us at kryptonreportpod@gmail.com. If you get a chance to go over to iTunes, please leave us a review to help us get better. If you're an Amazon shopper, just remember you can go to southgatemediagroup.com. There's a portal, log into Amazon, and you'll shop into your account just regular, but it also helps keep all the podcasts on and helps keep Southgate running. Remember, look up in the sky.